These stock YouTube gurus are sweeping YouTube like a tsunami, hitting all the upcoming investors, so you may have seen them at some point, and maybe have even looked to them for advice. They are just everywhere, and many people flock to them in the dozens, sprinting to see what exact stocks they should get. And it raises the question of whether following stock recommendations from these YouTube gurus is actually a good idea. Should you trust them with your hard-earned money to invest in? Today, I'll explain why I believe the answers to both of these questions are emphatically no. But before that, make sure to like and subscribe to gain more valuable information like this. I recently conducted a poll on this channel, and it appears that slightly more than 50% of you have at least once coattailed a YouTuber, so I'm hoping that this video will help spread some awareness. Wall Street Wisdom is here to provide you with the best advice and resources for using the stock market to become financially independent. Let's start by listening to what Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time, has to say about this subject. When someone offers the world any great investment ideas, I always have my doubts. He quotes. And Buffett is undoubtedly setting an example in this regard. Just listen to what he said when asked about his thoughts regarding a possible investment in the chewing gum company Wrigley. We might or might not purchase that company, so we wouldn't want to comment on it. We could sell it, or we could decide not to. In the future, we might or might not purchase or sell it. Here is a quote from Warren Buffett's explanation of this in Berkshire Hathaway's 1983 annual shareholder letter. Good product or business acquisition ideas are just as uncommon, valuable, and vulnerable to competitive appropriation as good investment ideas. As a result, we typically avoid discussing our investment strategies. Now, why is Buffett acting in this manner? Why, then, should every serious investor to follow suit? I'll explain. The price of shares of companies that are listed on the stock market is determined by supply and demand, just like the price of anything else. What is likely to occur if you publicize your bullishness on a particular stock if you have a sizable following on social media or elsewhere? The demand for it will rise, that much is true. The price of the shares will increase as demand increases. Before another person states the obvious, yes, Warren Buffett has a much bigger influence on this than any single YouTuber could ever hope to have, but the direction of the movement is more important than its size. That's up. Is this a good or bad thing for the person making the promotion now? That depends on their time horizon for investing, and to make things a little clearer, you can have either a short-term or long-term perspective. In order to increase your chances of selling your stocks at higher prices, you will probably be better off marketing your stocks to a large following if you are a short-term investor or trader. A pump and dump strategy involves actively boosting the price of shares that you personally own with the intention of selling them once demand has increased. In most nations, this is regarded as market manipulation and is prohibited. The fact that you would make money at the expense of your devoted supporters, who probably won't realize you've pumped and dumped the stock until it's too late for them to profit from it themselves, is also incredibly immoral. The price of the businesses you are currently investing in shouldn't increase if you are a long-term investor. Let me explain, because although it may seem counterintuitive, it is the truth. Let Buffett explain first, and I'll go into more detail after that. And for the rest of my life, I will continue to buy groceries. He says. Now, if I'm going to buy groceries tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year, would I prefer an increase or decrease in price? And the obvious response is that if I'm a net buyer, I would benefit more from lower prices. He explains. Let's say I think these 10 companies would make good investments in 2021. I've reached the conclusion that the shares of the companies are worth this much after carefully analyzing them. But this is the price at which they actually trade in the market. It indicates that I could purchase these shares at this much of a discount as long as prices are at this level. Note that I want this discount to remain as large as possible as long as my plan is to be a net buyer of shares, or if I'm in it for the long run. The expected returns on my purchases increase with the size of the discount. These shares would increase in price and the expected returns on my investments would be lower if I promoted them. Keep in mind that price increases on the stock market are not the only or even the main way to profit from investing. The main strategy is to multiply the money your investments bring in. On the large companies I've used as examples here, you would need to be someone like Warren Buffett to have this type of influence, but with smaller companies, a YouTuber with a sizable following can have a significant impact. If you believe something is worth $250, would you rather pay $137 or $164 for it? I concurred. But there's more to it. Promoting your long-term investments from the vantage point that prices might rise and make the stock no longer be a bargain is not only a stupid idea, but it will also muck up your ability to view the situation objectively. This is caused by commitment bias, and Robert Cialdini conducted a fantastic study on it with college students in the 1970s. He divided the class into two groups, A and B. He simply instructed group of students to attend a study on thinking processes that was scheduled to begin at 7 a.m. Even though the students were interested in this subject, only 27% of them chose to come to class at 7 a.m., which is early for a student. To put his theory about commitment bias to the test, Robert Cialdini did so. He began by asking Group B students if they would be open to taking part in a study on thought processes. 56% of respondents said they would be intrigued by that. The study would start at 7 a.m., he continued by telling them. Out of the 56% of students from Group B who had indicated that they wanted to attend, 95% actually showed up, unable to break their initial promise. The moral of the story is that we frequently refuse to change our minds once we've made a public commitment to them, even in the face of new information. So you will hold on to some stocks longer than is logically justifiable as a result of chit-chatting about your stock picks on a YouTube channel. In conclusion, advertising your stock picks to a sizable subscriber base as a long-term investor lowers your expected returns on investment and makes you irrational, further lowering your expected returns. Therefore, there are two reasons why people would share their individual stock picks on a popular social media account: because they are long-term investors who don't know what they are doing, or because they are short-term investors who want to inflate the share price at the expense of their followers. Do you believe it is wise to heed the counsel of either of these two? Personally, I would never, which is also the reason you'll probably never hear me on this channel discussing my personal stock picks. Don't get me wrong, though, researching particular investments made by others may yield useful information if you first, instead of just picking the exact same thing they are picking, try to understand why they are making that choice. Second, learn from the right role models, such as Joel Greenblatt, Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, Benjamin Graham, and Seth Klarman. Individuals with established long-term track records. It might not be a good idea for me to say this, but having a sizable YouTube following demonstrates your talent as a YouTuber, not as an investor. Everyone is constantly looking for life's shortcuts. I hope this video has made it clear to you that picking individual stocks based on the advice of others is not a quick way to become wealthy. It leads directly to mediocrity. That concludes today's rant. Now go research someone who has a successful track record. Thanks, guys, and I hope to see you soon.